After you retire, will you pull a Michael Jordan and unretire? Welcome to Retirement Revealed. I'm your host, Jeremy Keil, and we're here to turn your retirement savings into retirement income. Today, we're talking with Richard Eisenberg about his true retirement and unretirement story. Richard, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeremy. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. And I've known you for a little bit of time. I was excited for you when you announced on LinkedIn you were retiring. And then you also, somewhat shortly thereafter, announced you're unretiring. So maybe tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Sure thing. And to me, they're really the same thing. Some people think of unretirement as they try retirement, they didn't like it, and then they go back to work, so they're unretired. That's not my definition. My definition of unretirement is retiring the way I want to, which is working part-time, volunteering sometimes, mentoring sometimes, traveling sometimes, like where I am right now in Los Angeles with my son and daughter-in-law and our new granddaughter. Um, that's my version of unretirement.
Yeah, I love that. And congrats. Way to go. Have a new granddaughter. Which number is this for you?
This is number one. And on top of everything else, my son and daughter-in-law and our granddaughter are about to move from the apartment that they're in, which is where I'm sitting, to a house in Los Angeles. And so I'm here to help pack. So if you see boxes in the background, I apologize for the clutter, but pretty soon it'll all be gone and into a new place.
Well, this is great, and this is why I wanted to have you on. Although the granddaughter was surprising to me and news to me, I love that, and that's a big part of what retirement's about. Is you get the time now to do these type of things. I'm curious actually because this seems to happen quite a bit. I see was the anticipation or perhaps the news of grandchildren, was that a factor at all with your retirement?
Well, I'll say that my wife and I always hope that we would have grandchildren, but you never know if that will happen. But it was not a precipitating factor for my choosing to retire from my full-time job. So I had been the managing editor of the PBS website for people over 50 Next Avenue, and I had been part of the launch team there, and I had been there 10 years. But in 2022, I turned 65. I'd been there 10 years, and I just felt it was time for me to step away, let somebody else have a chance at it, and have the time to do some different things. And so I left that job in 2022. I started my own retirement in January 2022. Our granddaughter just came along 4 months ago, so it's been a little time in between the two.
Oh, that's great. You said you felt it was time. Can you share with me how did you really know it was time to retire?
Well, I just had a sort of a nudge inside that sort of said, you know, you've got lots of years left. You're still, fortunately able to do things. Take advantage of that possibility. And so there are things I knew that I want to do, and some things that I didn't know what I would do, but I want to have the opportunities to try new things. Um, I I enjoyed my work very much, and I still do write for Next Avenue and lots of other places. But I was kind of ready to stop the meetings and the management and the invoices and all the things that come with a full-time job and have somebody else's schedule being my schedule and instead start living it my way. And so I'm figuring it out. But I felt like it was the right time. I talked with my wife a lot about it. I talked with our financial advisor. It seemed like it was an okay thing to do.
Oh, that's great. And it's interesting how you mentioned the feeling, kind of the nudge, the getting rid of the things that you don't like to do is really kind of the precipitation of the retirements. It's interesting. It feels like, and we just focus solely on helping people make that retirement transition. And it seems like a lot of times when you come to me as seeking some sort of financial advice, you've already decided exactly when you're going to retire and why. And it's not as if you're saying, can I retire? It's hey, I'm going to do this. Help me avoid mistakes, help me pay less taxes, help me make sure I'm doing things right. So it seems surprising to a lot of the I guess the younger folks, and especially around kind of DIY type of investors, where I'm on YouTube at Mr. Retirement, and with that, a lot of do-it-yourself folks are asking me some kind of questions and say, well, how will I know, and what dollar amount do I need? And it seems like the dollar amount is the least of your concerns by the time you hit retirement. And it seems like that was the case for you.
Well, it's a concern. It's certainly a radical departure to go from getting a paycheck and benefits to suddenly not having those things and still having the bills to pay. So, you want to be sure that you can afford to do it. But for me, I wanted the opportunity to keep working because I enjoy doing it, but at a different pace. And as much as I wanted to have the chance to work with people I want to work with and to sometimes say no to people I didn't want to work with. When you're an employee, you don't have that opportunity. And I've been fortunate that I've been able to do that. I've been really enjoying the work I've been doing, the people I've been working with, and there have been a few times I've said no to things, but I try to do it politely and offer some suggestions of alternative people that they might want to consider. But I feel like that's just part of this new time of my life.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you for saying yes to us. We made the list of things you enjoy to do, so I'll take that, Richard. Uh,
Absolutely.
tell me a little bit more. What do you do now for the work part of the times that you're working then?
So primarily I would say the work is writing and editing, which is what I've done all my career. I freelance for Next Avenue. I write a column for Market Watch called The View from Unretirement. I write for Fortune about Medicare. Um, but I also have been doing a few other things that are bringing in some income. One is for the past 2 years, and this will be now my third. I run the new NYU Summer Publishing Institute's Digital Media Strategies program, and so that's a 2-week program during the summer for recent college grads and some rising seniors who want to learn about digital media. And my job is for 2 weeks to find guest speakers and panelists to come in and talk to them about all the areas of digital media, opportunities, challenges, what's going on, what the trends are. I edit some edit tests for them. I try to mentor them and help them if they're thinking about starting a career. And that's been really enjoyable. And I even got to teach a class in unretirement to NYU to people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. So that was fun too.
Oh, that's great. Now, you mentioned the granddaughter and helping your son and daughter-in-law move. Tell me, what else do you like to do then, besides work for the fun part of work?
Right. Well, I love spending time with my two adult children and their wives and our granddaughter. The unfortunate thing is that I'm so far away from them. I live in New Jersey. All live in Los Angeles. So my wife and I get out here as often as we can, but we're not living here all the time. So there's a lot of FaceTiming and a lot of phone calls and texting and emails. But every chance I get to come out here, I jump at that opportunity. And beyond that, my wife and I love to travel. We're talking about a trip to Norway and Denmark if we can do it in August. Every summer we spend a weekend with some friends at something called Tanglewood, which is where the Boston Symphony Orchestra plays
Hmm.
outside in the Berkshires of Massachusetts. It's beautiful out there, so we're looking forward to doing that one weekend this summer. So, but I also don't want to be so busy that every day is completely full. I'm happy when some days are fairly open. I'm not happy if every day is wide open.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who just told me to do this recently, but it might have been Fritz Gilbert from the Retirement Manifesto who was talked to recently. He said, "Schedule unscheduled time." A lot of retirees have the problem where you went from completely scheduled to completely unscheduled, and that's kind of just a game changer in a bad way. A lot of times, maybe not the first week of it, but after that or so. But then all of a sudden you might do the opposite, and you bring back the entire schedule again that you had before. So I believe it was him that said schedule unscheduled time.
You figure it out as you go along because it's a new chapter for us and it's hard to know exactly what it's going to be like. And so it's scary at first when you're looking at a blank calendar with nothing on it and you have to start filling it in. And then you decide, well, how much do I want to fill it in? How busy do I want to be? And what do I want to spend my time doing? And you may think and you try it in a certain way and you find, well, maybe that's too busy or maybe not busy enough. So it's fine to try and try different things. Trial and error is part of, I would say, unretirement.
Yeah, well, it seems like you're doing it well. You're enjoying it as far as we can tell. It's been 2 years now. What would you say is different than you expected going into retirement?
Uh, well, there are always going to be some curveballs that you just don't expect. My wife and I have been doing a lot of caregiving lately for her mom and her brother. We're happy to do that, but I hadn't expected to be doing that, and that has taken some time. But fortunately, because I'm unretired, I've had the ability to do it, which I would not have been able to do if I had a full-time job. I've been doing a lot of reading. I do some book reviews for People magazine, and I enjoy doing that. Um, so I would say, the surprises are, I kind of knew I wanted to keep working for Next Avenue. I didn't know that I'd be writing the column for Market Watch. I didn't know that I'd be writing about Medicare for Fortune. They both came to me, and I jumped at both offers. I've talked to some other people about possible projects, some of whom I've turned down. Sometimes they've turned me down, and you just go with the flow.
Yeah, that's great stuff. I'm curious because you planned for this ahead of time. You talked about retirement, so you assuming you were prepared and maybe knew about it more than most. But what would you say were a mistake you might have made, either preparing or since then?
Well, let's see. I mean, I did, because I'm a personal finance writer, I've been sort of talking to a lot of people about this sort of thing for many years and writing and editing about it. So I feel like I heard from the best about it, but we all make mistakes. I feel like what I did right was I started saving for retirement as early as I could, and I did that regularly. I feel like maybe I hadn't thought as much about the tax implications of retirement and what you need to know about taxes and pensions and Social Security. So those are things that I'm still learning about. And Medicare, I vaguely knew about it, but I think most people, until they get to around 64, 65, they don't really spend a lot of time thinking about that. So I've been learning a lot about Medicare, and I've been, mostly happy with it, but there are always some bumps in the road.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine you're researching it quite a bit. And thank you for validating how we go about retirement planning because we talk all the time about taxes, pensions, Social Security, Medicare, things like that. It's interesting. Sometimes clients come to us because they are asking questions about those things of their advisor and not getting the answers at all or the answers that they want. Or sometimes clients come to us because they thought for 40 years that investments are the only thing that matter for retirement, and then they realize very quickly, right around that 63, 64, that wait a second, there's a lot of other things out there. And they've prepared well. They're probably actually good investors. They've had 40 years to do it, but they haven't had 40 years to plan for the pension and how they take that or Medicare. And of course, you fill out a form once, you probably can't change it. And so it's worthwhile figuring this out ahead of time if you
Well,
can.
there is open enrollment every year, so that allows you to make changes in the kind of Medicare coverage you have and which plans you want to have. I will say that one of the things I've learned as I've been writing my unretirement column is that a lot of people give very little thought to what life is going to be like for them in retirement. They've thought a lot about the money part of it, but not much else. And so for many people, it's a very sharp transition for them and uncomfortable in some cases for some people. Some people have troubles with identity. They wonder who they are now because they're not who they had been. They're not, people don't call them what they used to call them. And so some people, struggle with that a little bit. Some people just don't know what to do with themselves. It's very easy to sit at home all day and do nothing. And for some people, that's fine and that's what they want to do. But other people can get bored or depressed by that. And so I really feel it's important. I tell people all the time to think about what you want to retire to, not just what you want to retire from. And I think the more people can think about that, realize you won't know it all before you start, but to think a little bit about that and to talk with people about that, the happier you're going to be once you start.
Yeah, it's right on where it's almost like you've got this feeling that it's time to retire, and you'll retire whether the money's there or not. So it's really showing that the money part is really not the problem. I think a lot of times with retirement, it's what are you going to do with your time and your effort and your focus. And of course, you get to see this a lot preparing for retirement. With people commenting on your columns and things like that. But you also get to talk with some other retirement experts. Tell me a little bit more about Friends Talk Money. I enjoy
Thank
listening to that podcast.
you. Yeah, well, thank you. I enjoy doing it. It's a podcast that I do with two other co-hosts. One is Terry Savage, who your audience may know is a very noted personal finance columnist and author. And the other is a woman named Pam Kruger, who is very smart and started a company called Wealth Ramp, which helps people find, and she vets fee-only fiduciary financial advisors for people. And so we get together. We're never in the same state or the same room. We're always all over the country, but we are talking as though we're in the same room on all kinds of topics that we think are of interest to people over 50 about personal finances. And a lot of course, is retirement, but it's also about grandchildren and college planning. And it's also about working in retirement. It's about volunteering, and it's about all kinds of things. And we try to be topical and off the news when there's a new law like the Secure 2.0 law. We'll talk about that. Sometimes we talk about something where it's the right season, like Medicare open enrollment. And sometimes it's just something we think is on people's minds. If the stock market's having a great time or a terrible time, we'll talk about that too.
Well, that's great. And I'll make sure to put a link into that with the Friends Talk Money. It's of course all three of you are finance related and columnists and journalists and so forth, but none of you are financial advisors really. So it's interesting and nice to get that perspective typically. And here you are listening to a financial advisors podcast, and I think it's helpful to get the perspective from folks that are interested but not financial advisors. And of course, you get to give your perspective too, and your second entering your third year of unretirement.
Right. Well, we also have a lot of guests on our podcast. So I would say most episodes we have an expert who is going to, shine a light on the topic for our audience. And often they are financial advisors or they're experts in their area. We've had experts on paying for college. We've had experts on Social Security, but often they're personal financial advisors as well.
Yeah, excellent. Well, you're 2 years into retirement. You have plenty more to go. Curious what else you're looking forward to in the rest of your retirement.
Well, I'm really enjoying volunteering. I've been doing some of that already, and I'm hoping to do more of that. I do that every weekend at a place in New Jersey where I live called Furniture Assist, and that's been great. I've recently been doing some volunteering with a group called the American Society of Journalists and Authors. They are a nonprofit for freelance writers, and I've been trying to help them in different ways. So I'm looking forward to doing more of that. And also just to see what comes along the way. It could be work, it could be travel. I know there'll be a lot of time with our granddaughter. I can't wait to see her grow up and travel with her as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, I've got one more question for you. Before that, tell us what's the best way to reach out to you, Richard?
Lots of different ways. So I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, I'm on X, formerly Twitter.
Yes.
If anybody wants to email me, they just do my name, Richard Eisenberg. That's RICHARD @USA.net. I read all my email. I respond to everybody who reaches out to me, whether it's on email or LinkedIn or Facebook or X. So I'm happy to hear from you. And if you've got any ideas of things you'd like me to write about or talk about, please let me know. And if you want to just tell me what you're up to or questions you've got, I'm happy to talk.
Yeah, it's fun that you're building a community, and I've got all those. They'll be in the show notes with the your your Twitter/X handle there, and the LinkedIn and the email and
Thank
all
you.
that. Awesome. Good. Well, I've got the final question here. Tell us something about yourself that few people know about. And remember, this podcast is rated clean.
Well, they might know that when I was younger, I used to play the mandolin and the violin, and I had 4 wonderful summers at a camp called the National Music Camp, also known as Interlochen in northern Michigan. And I think my favorite memory of that was one time there was a concert that called for a mandolin player, and I played, and the conductor happened to be Aaron Copland. So I actually got a chance to meet with him, who's one of my idols as a wonderful composer and conductor as well.
Oh, that's so fun. That's great to be able to have that as a memory. I'm reading this book, Die with Zero. I'm looking to see if I have it around me, but a big part of that is you should invest your money into things that pay dividends, and memory dividends are important. And there you were, you took the time, and perhaps it was your parents' money at the time to do the to do the camp. But what a great memory you've had. That's
Thanks.
awesome.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thanks for sharing your unretirement story, Richard. It's been a blast.
Thank you, Jeremy. I enjoyed being here and hope to see you again.
I'm sure we'll make that happen. And thank you for listening to the Retirement Revealed podcast. We believe if you know more about your money, you'll feel better about your money, and you will make better money decisions.